Hello, my name's Lizzie. I'm Anglican, and in just over 2 months' time, I'm going to be moving into a convent ready to become a postulant. And sorry for the delay in me putting some more videos up. I've just been trying to think about how to do it in a way where I'm talking about my experiences of discerning a potential call to religious life in a way that's not revealing too much about the community in particular that I'm looking at. And I've just been trying to work out like what to share and what not to share, and how to go about that. And the same with to how much I share of what I felt like God doing in me or saying to me as well. So I've just been trying to think about how to go about these videos. But I'm back, and here is a video about just the sort of the main things that stood out to me from my stay at the with the religious community that I'm looking at. So if you've watched some of my other videos, you might have seen that there's a before you become a postulant, you do a time where you're called an alongsider, where you live in the community, actually like in the sisters' quarters. So that's what I was doing quite recently. And so here are just a few things that I suppose just most stood out to me from that experience. But hopefully everything I say in this video is just sort of more general things that stood out to me that I reckon would have stood out to me whatever religious community I'd been with. So I hope you find this interesting.
I will hold your people in my heart.
One of the first things that stood out to me was it was just a very different um, either pace of life or just different pattern of life from the work week that I'm used to. I'm used to getting up early and starting work early. But I say that I'm used to that pattern that quite a few people work in of working Monday to Friday, then having Saturday and Sunday off. Although I know that's increasingly uncommon now, and of having I start work about 6:30 and end about 4 most days. So I kind of have a work day and then have the evening to rest and do something else before work the next day, which I guess is a pattern that quite a few people have in their work week. So one of the first things that stood out to me was that it was a very different pattern living in a convent or with a religious community. So the getting up early was the same, and I think we even started a bit later than some other communities, but the the day of things that we were expected to do together kind of started at around, I don't know, 6:30 or so. But then you've got, as you've seen from some of my other videos, that there are various times for different prayers throughout the day in a nun's life or a sister's life, and that can go all the way up till 9 in the evening. So there's not this pattern of up to a certain time in the day you're at work and then you've got the evening to yourself. The pattern was more that I think there might be there seems to be a bit more free time either after what I would call lunch, like the midday meal, or sometime in the afternoon seemed to be there seems to be a bit of free time there, and then maybe an hour or so in the evening. Uh, but at the same time, you'd have chores, or you'd be busy doing things in the evening, for some of the evening, and you'd have compline in the evening as well. So it's not as simple as like your day ends at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock and you've got nothing else, no other commitments in the evening. So that was how the day pattern was quite different, but also the week pattern was very different, because actually Saturdays and Sundays, I've noticed this from staying with other communities, were actually busier for the sisters or could be than Monday to Friday, because if you're trying to be available to guests coming to stay, if they've got a Monday to Friday week where they're more busy, then they're more likely to want to come and stay at a convent at a weekend. Or if you've got a group coming, like a Christian group that want to use the convent as a venue for a study day or a meeting or a prayer day or something, they're likely to want to come on a Saturday. Or if you're offering a particular
study day or quiet day, then you're more likely to put that on a Saturday. So Saturdays are quite busy in terms of hospitality and hosting other people. And also, if you've got, I know quite a few convents, they might employ a member of staff to help either in the grounds or usually like in the kitchen Monday to Friday. So if you've got that, then they're probably not coming in at the weekend. So there's, as well as extra things to do for guests at weekends, there's usually extra work in the kitchen at weekends for sisters. So definitely the weekends actually almost felt busier than Monday to Friday while I was staying with this community. And then I suppose linked to all of this, the other thing that stood out in terms of pattern was that I've got the luxury of having 2 days off together, which again I know is increasingly uncommon for people. And this community that I was with, that I'm looking at, they actually do have, each sister does have a day off each week, and it's usually a weekday. And I realised how much I felt that I needed that day off because the days were quite long, or I just definitely felt like I definitely needed that day off. And I don't know how, I know of other sisters who don't have a day off in a week, or I don't know how they do that personally, because I just definitely realised that I needed it one day off after 6 days of a nun's life, if that makes sense.
All the sisters just seemed so down to earth, and there was something about just the way that the community was structured that also was down to earth. Everyone seemed very in touch with what was going on in the world, and they were very in touch with that they would listen to the news on the radio, listen to radio programs like Women's Hour and stuff. I went and joined the sisters to watch the 6 o'clock news every evening on their TV. The convent is subscribed to various like newspapers and like magazines, like news ones and Christian ones. So a lot of the sisters are reading these in their free time or in their day. So there was definitely a sense of the sisters being very connected with what was going on outside the convent, and that also came up with that there are certain like staff or volunteers that came in to help at the convent, and the sisters were also always, you could just tell in our conversations when we would stop to have a cup of tea together in the day, and you could just tell that they were very caring of like anyone that visited the convent or worked or volunteered at the convent. And then sometimes while we were chatting, you just learn about how one sister had a friend or a family member who was maybe we were praying for an operation they were about to have or something. And so as well as all the news you're reading about and watching, all the sisters have got people that they either encounter in their ministry or just friends and family. And so you're part of this whole network of care, and then you just learn more about life even just through your conversations with each other, because everyone's got different experiences and different things that they're connected to. So I felt actually really connected somehow with all the sisters and the surrounding area, like the neighborhood that we were in the city, and in a way I felt connected to even the sisters' friends and families somehow, if that makes sense. So I just definitely felt this strong sense of connection, and not at all any sense of being out of touch with the world or with society. The convent felt like this very, very you know how over decades or centuries you can fine tune a system or something so that it works even more efficiently and works even more smoothly. And so this community, I guess, like, over the years had become more, I guess I just learned over time how to do things best as a community. And so it was just like this amazing it's just this amazing like system where everything worked so smoothly together, and everybody knew their different roles to make everything work together. So one of the I was given like my little duties, and then all the other sisters had their little duties, and each sister had things that they did that contributed to our sort of general life together, and then they were given they were given tasks that suited their particular like capacity. So if you had a sister who wasn't so agile, that she was given something to do that she still like obviously could do, and then I was given things that the other sisters possibly couldn't do, and so like together we just got everything done, because there's a lot to do. I mean, if you're trying to oversee the running of a household where there's just like four of you in the household, or like a child or something, like I know that from speaking with my friends that that's a lot of hard work in itself. But when you've got a community of like quite a few people living together, as like almost extra work, especially when it comes to meal times and stuff. So everyone had their tasks to do. So you'd get to the end of a meal, and we'd thank God for the meal, and then suddenly everyone gets up and everyone knows exactly what they're going to do. And so one of the big things that I had to learn now was I'm so used to me using my initiative as being seen as a good thing, and I had to stop that line of thought, because if I went to do something to try and be helpful, I was intruding on somebody else's task, and I'd probably do it wrong as well. But also someone pointed out to me that if a sister saw that I was doing a part of her task by accident, like she might think that I'd been asked to do her whole task for that moment in time, and then it wouldn't get completed properly. And so there was this, I had to definitely learn what were my tasks and what were not my tasks, and what I shouldn't do. But if everyone did exactly what their little contribution was, everything just came together so efficiently and smoothly. And it kind of reminded me at school, I had to go to this RAF, I don't know what it was now. I had to go to an RAF station for something. I think I was doing like a leadership course, or something like that one summer. And so lots of things, like not in a negative way, but lots of things actually at the convent actually reminded me of a military lifestyle, like not in the sense of fighting, because I expect quite a few of the sisters are pacifists, but in terms of how everything was done very meticulously, because it needs to be, especially when it comes in terms of like hygiene, and just lots of people living together needing things to be tidy and thoroughly in place. And obviously when you've got lots of cooking for lots of people, that hygiene is very important. But there was this kind of certain, it felt a bit like military in a positive sense, of just everything done very thoroughly and in a very organised way, so that everything got done and everyone contributed. And it was that the sense of order was actually really nice, like both in terms of like the day was very ordered, but just that everything was always very clean and tidy, and nothing was overlooked. And I just really enjoyed that. I really liked that sense of order, and it was nice to be part of it, and to be part of, when you see documentaries of I don't know, but bees being really busy. There were times when there was like a hive of activity and everyone was just doing their part, and to know that I had a part to play in that, in getting everything done in time for the next service or something, it was really nice to be part of. I realised while I was there that there was nothing that I was asked to do that the other sisters weren't already doing themselves as part of their like daily lives, or that they hadn't done in the past. So I sensed this kind of togetherness somehow with the other sisters, and that also showed in other ways. Like I realised that there was nothing that I was probably experiencing that the other sisters hadn't experienced, and at times when people asked like, how are you doing, or how are you feeling, and I told them, they were able to say, oh, I remember when I felt like that, or this was how I felt God speak to me or help me when I was feeling like that. So again, even not just in terms of what I was doing, but how I was feeling or what I was going through, like spiritually or like mentally, I realised that lots of these other sisters had been through exactly the same process or journey. So again, that togetherness somehow with the other sisters was really helpful. And I suppose there's a tiny bit of hierarchy in a religious community, but not really. And the head of this community definitely had the mentality of a servant and would be just as much stuck in with like the more like domestic chores or menial tasks type things as everyone else. But I felt really encouraged somehow, but by the sense of us all being equal in some way. Like we all had our yeah, that you wouldn't, there was nothing that I was doing that no other sister would be willing to do. And that kind of thing was just really helpful. And the sense that we were all together, we were all in this together, we're all living in the same conditions, or all living, or all doing similar things, and all going through a similar um, or having God doing maybe similar things in us, or going on a similar journey or something like that. It was just nice to have that experience of having quite a lot in common and quite a lot of equality somehow, but with a group of other Christian women. The other main thing, that's probably the last thing, that stood out to me was, I suppose, when you don't live in a convent and you want to go away on a retreat, and so you choose to go to a convent, the very fact of being there is helpful because it feels more spiritual or something like that. It feels more spiritual somehow than your own home. And so that's probably part of the reason why you might want to go and stay at a guest house of a convent. And then maybe while you're staying with nuns temporarily, it just helps you feel more prayerful, or something like that, or that's been my experience. And then you go home afterwards and it feels like you're back to normal, maybe something like that anyway. But when the convent is your home, you don't have that that kind of novelty spiritual factor somehow. So after a while, I mean, I was only there, I wasn't there, so long in the grand scheme of things, but yeah, when a convent is your home, then there's nowhere you can go to feel, to go to a place that feels more spiritual somehow. Like it's a different setup from going to a convent from a normal non-religious context. So after a while, like even the very things that might have helped you feel more prayerful or more spiritual to begin with, that just becomes like your normal day, and you're waking up in a convent and that's your normal home. And all the praying is just like that is your normal daily life. So the novelty, or the feeling spiritual somehow, I think then fades away, because it becomes, is mundane the word? Yeah, something like that. Just to wake up in a convent is normal, and to have all these different prayers and things again is normal. And I suppose, I mean, from things I've read, I guess it would be very possible that even as a nun living in a convent, your prayer life could become very what's the word, kind of like, it wouldn't be vain repetition, but you could feel very unprayerful, I think, while being a nun, if that makes sense, because you could just go through the motions of your day and not be engaged in it somehow. And so I just realised that it's all the more important, I guess, as a sister, to have your own personal prayer times as well, and to just make sure that you're always somehow like growing in intimacy with God and being open to the Holy Spirit, so that even though like the structure of the day might look so similar 6 days a week, you're still aware of the fact that God's grace and what God's up to, it is like fresh every moment. And even though you got so much sort of formal prayer time in your day or in your week, you've still got that that life and dynamic something in your prayer life, that means that it's not, your prayer life isn't dry or overly formal or mundane or something like that. So I don't know if I've put it very well in words, but I just definitely noticed it was just interesting when what used to be like a spiritual novelty of going to a convent suddenly is like your mundane daily life. It's just, yeah, well, all the more reason not to rely on external things to make you feel prayerful or be prayerful, but you've got to, that's got to come from your relationship with, right, with God, and it's got to come from like a constant freshness in your spiritual life somehow. I don't know if I've worded that very well, but that was the other main thing that stood out to me.